Picture this, a dark, forgotten wine cellar in 1920s Yugoslavia. A shocking discovery is about to be made. Police find dozens of zinc-lined coffins, arranged in a chilling circle. Inside each one, the body of a man, a former lover of the beautiful and wealthy aristocrat, Vera Renczi. They called her the Black Widow. The legend says she served her suitors arsenic-laced wine and kept their bodies like grotesque trophies. It's a terrifying story of jealousy and murder that has been a staple of true crime for a century. But this horrifying tale hides an even bigger secret. The whole thing might be a lie. So, was Vera Renczi one of history's most prolific female serial killers, or is she just one of its most convincing ghosts? To get the full story, we have to go back to the early 20th century. The legend of Vera Renczi starts in Bucharest, Romania, where she was supposedly born into a wealthy family around 1903. The story goes that from a young age, she was stunningly beautiful, but also had a dangerous jealous streak and a desperate need for male attention. By 15, she was apparently out of control, constantly running off with boyfriends, many of them much older. But her story really kicks off with her first marriage to a rich Viennese banker named Karl Schick. They had a son, Lorenzo, and for a little while, it seemed like Vera had settled down. Her possessive side, however, quickly took over. She became obsessed with the idea that Karl was cheating on her. One evening, according to her alleged confession, she served him his last meal, complete with a glass of poisoned wine. To the world, she played the part of the abandoned wife, telling everyone he'd just up and left. A year later, she changed her story, saying he had died in a car crash. She didn't stay grieving for long. Vera soon remarried, this time to a man closer to her own age. But history has a funny way of repeating itself in tales like these. That same green-eyed monster came back, and Vera grew suspicious that her new husband was also unfaithful. Just months after their wedding, he vanished, too. This time, she just told everyone he'd abandoned her. And just like that, Vera was a wealthy, beautiful, and seemingly tragic widow, twice over. After husband number 2 disappeared, Vera supposedly gave up on marriage. But she still craved male companionship. So she started a long, dizzying series of affairs. Men from all walks of life were drawn to her home in a town called Bucharest, in what was then Yugoslavia. For a while, they'd be the center of her world. But every time Vera's passion turned to suspicion, she'd invite her current lover for one last drink. Each man vanished, one after the other. When people asked, Vera would just sigh and say they'd been unfaithful and left her. For years, no one questioned it. She was just seen as this tragic figure who couldn't keep a man. The legend claims she killed more than 30 lovers this way. But the most chilling victim, the one that turns this story into a full-blown tragedy, was supposedly her own son, Lorenzo. As the story goes, Lorenzo, now a young man, accidentally stumbled upon his mother's ghastly collection in the locked wine cellar. He threatened to expose her. For Vera, there was only one solution. She poisoned her own son, holding him as he died, just to make sure she was the last woman he ever held. For years, her secret was safe. But the downfall of Vera Renczi, as the tale is told, didn't come from some brilliant detective work. It came from a suspicious wife. One of Vera's lovers was a married bank official named Milorad. When he didn't come home, his wife refused to believe Vera's story that he'd simply left. She went to the police, insisting they investigate, and pointed out the long, strange trail of men who had disappeared from Vera Renczi's life. The police finally paid Vera a visit. Under questioning, her story fell apart. This gave them the suspicion they needed to get a search warrant. They searched her home, and their search eventually led them to the wine cellar. There, they found it, a circle of 32 zinc-lined coffins. In the middle of this horrifying gallery sat a red armchair and a half-empty bottle of champagne. The legend tells us this was Vera's private sanctuary. She would come down, sit in her chair, and have conversations with her dead lovers, possessing them in death in a way she never could in life. She confessed to everything. When the judge at her trial asked why she did it, she reportedly gave a simple, chilling answer: they were men. I could not endure that they would ever put their arms around another woman after they had embraced me. The story concludes that she was convicted of 35 murders, sentenced to life in prison, and died there in 1960. It's a perfect true crime story. A femme fatale, a ghastly secret, and a body count that would make headlines anywhere. It's dramatic, horrifying, and fascinating. There's just one enormous problem. What if none of it ever happened? The moment you start to look for any real proof of Vera Renczi's story, the whole thing just unravels. For someone who was supposedly one of the 20th century's worst serial killers, there is a shocking lack of evidence that she was even a real person. There are no official court documents, no police records of her arrest, and no death certificate. 0. An event this sensational, dozens of bodies found in a wine cellar, would have been global news. Yet, there seem to be no contemporary newspaper accounts from Romania or Yugoslavia about it at all. The entire story seems to originate from a handful of articles published in American newspapers in May 1925. The journalist, Otto Taliscus, even noted that his report was based on letters from readers, not official sources. From there, the legend grew. It was reprinted and retold, and details like the zinc coffins and the armchair became cemented in the myth. Even the location is a mystery. Most sources name the town as Berkerekul, but a town with that name or spelling is nowhere to be found on modern or historical maps. In 1972, the Guinness Book of World Records looked into her supposed 35 murders for an entry. Their conclusion? They couldn't find any authoritative sources to back up the story. More recently, historians who specialize in the Balkans have been asked about the case, and most of them have never even heard of Vera Renczi outside of internet forums. And you know those haunting photos you always see of her online? The dark-haired woman with the pensive stare. That's not Vera Renczi. It's actually a famous Russian stage actress named Vera Komisarzevskaya, who died in 1910, long before Renczi's alleged killing spree even started. So if there are no records, no contemporary reports, and the photos are fake, where did this story come from? It's possible it was just sensationalist fiction from the start, a wild, pulp story made to sell newspapers. Or maybe it's a twisted version of a real case, like that of Belle Gunness, an American serial killer from around the same time who also murdered her suitors. The story of Vera Renczi survives not because it's true, but because it's a perfect story. It taps into that timeless, Black Widow archetype, the beautiful, dangerous woman who lures men to their doom. The use of poison adds a layer of quiet betrayal, and the zinc coffins provide an unforgettable, gothic detail. She's the embodiment of obsessive jealousy, a fear that lurks in the dark corners of relationships. So, we're left with two Vera Renczis. The first is the legend, the beautiful monster who kept her dead lovers in coffins. The second is a ghost, a name attached to a story that has no anchor in reality. All that really exists is the tale itself, passed down for a century. The true mystery of Vera Renczi might not be what she did, but why we are so eager to believe her story. Maybe we need figures like her, specters that represent our deepest fears about love, jealousy, and betrayal. She's a myth, but like all powerful myths, she tells us something true about ourselves. So what's your take? Was Vera Renczi a real killer whose story has been lost to time, or is she one of the most successful urban legends in true crime history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy diving into history's darkest mysteries, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.
Before I sign off, this one was an experiment. New way of writing, new way of editing, and I'm curious whether it landed. Be honest in the comments, I can take it. And to the people who have been suggesting cases since the very beginning of this channel, you've helped build something I'm genuinely proud of. This video exists because of you. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.